This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Bluegrass is one of the things you could be singing the most depressing lyric ever, but the music is so joyful, you know? It's so joyful, Becky. It's hard to not have a smile on your face.
Sierra, what a treat this is for me. I've kind of watched you grow up from afar, but you started out Sierra Hall from Byrdstown, Tennessee.
Byrdstown, good old Byrdstown.
Incredible mandolin player, vocalist, musician. You started out though with WCTE doing some things back when you were about 11, I think 11 years old.
Yeah, I remember several times coming in and playing some of the pledge drives.
That's
and doing,
right.
Heart and Soul, is that the name of it? I remember.
Wow, you've got a great memory.
And then of course the Smithville Fiddlers Jamboree, seeing you there. And
that's right. How old were you when you started with the Jamboree, do you think?
Well, I'd been playing about 6 months, I think, when I went to the first one. So I think I had maybe just turned 9.
Wow.
Or something like that.
Did you win?
Not the first time. The first time I didn't place at all. The next year I went back and got second. Then I worked hard and went back the next year and won first.
That's so great. Now, why did you pick the mandolin?
Well, I got a fiddle for Christmas. Thought that was originally what I wanted to play. And then it was a full size, so it was a little bit too big for me to handle. And so, you know, we thought, well, we're gonna have to get me a smaller one. And I think just to kind of save my disappointment, you know, it was a Christmas present. My dad, who had been learning some mandolin and had a mandolin, said, well, you know, those two instruments are tuned alike. Maybe I could just show you something on the mandolin, and that way when you get a smaller fiddle, you'll know where to at least put your fingers. And so I was like, okay, and I started, you know, learning a tune or two on the mandolin and just like really fell in love with the mandolin and never looked back.
That's so great. So you mentioned your dad. I know when you used to come in and play, you played with your brother Cody.
Yeah.
How instrumental has your family been in your musical career?
Well, very much so. I think like the only way, you know, you can really get started and start to get opportunities of having, you know, parents that are, you know, kind enough to drive you around and sometimes spend their last $5 to take you to the Smithville Fiddlers Jamboree, or, you know, for us to come down and do the pledge stuff or whatever it might have been. They hauled us all over the place, me and my brother, and, you know, I can't imagine have gotten anywhere, you know, without them being so supportive and, you know, putting in the effort that a parent does, you know.
Absolutely. So you grew up in Byrdstown. What was that like?
It's great. I mean, I love Byrdstown. It's a beautiful part of Tennessee, and, you know, such a small little town, no red light. Yeah. You know, it's much different. I've lived in Nashville the last several years and Boston before that, but, you know, every time I go back home to Byrdstown, it still feels like home.
That's great. So from Byrdstown to Boston, what was that like?
That was quite a leap. You know, I'd been to Boston and played there a time or two, but actually, you know, living in a big city like that, and of course I went to Berklee College of Music, so I was living like on campus, and it was a pretty crazy couple years, but such a good experience, and I'm really glad I had that opportunity.
Now you won the Presidential Scholarship to Berklee School of Music in Boston. I read that was the first time a bluegrass performer had ever won that scholarship.
It was, which I was really, gosh, I didn't at all expect to get that. I mean, there's so many talented people up there, they really could have given it to so many other people, but I was really fortunate to get that. And, you know, once that you know, they called and said, well, we've decided to give you this scholarship, I was a little bit on the fence of whether, you know, I really wanted to go to start college right out of high school. I mean, I had spent a lot of years, you know, from early on starting to travel and get busier and busier, and I'd already put out my first rounder album while I was in high school. And so I thought, you know, I just can't wait. I mean, I loved school, and I always tried to, you know, do well and make good grades, but there was always, you know, that part of me that knew what I wanted to do and really looked forward to like kind of getting into that chapter of my life of not being a student anymore. So I was a little bit on the fence, and then when I got the call about the scholarship and knowing that it was the first time for a bluegrass artist, I really thought, I have to do this. I have to, you know, what an unbelievable blessing and opportunity that, you know, my friend Alison Krauss, she said to me, she's like, I was a little on the fence, and she said, you know, your career's still going to be here, which is hard to feel that way when you're like, out of high school and you've never known life not being in school and you're looking forward to that. But she said, your career's still going to be here. I think you should go. She said, you can go and if it's horrible, go for a year. If it's horrible, you can always come home.
That's
you
true.
don't have to stay. And it was great. It was one of the most, rewarding couple years of my life so far.
That's so great. That's so great. And you're pretty young now.
24.
Yeah. You say you have a birthday in September.
I do. 27th.
That's awesome. So you'll be hitting the big
25.
Yeah.
Woo.
Well, I'm telling you.
I know it's young. I know it's still young, but it's interesting. Even 24 was kind of like, because I've been doing it so long, and it feels sometimes like, wow, I've been doing this a long time. So 25, that's,
It's a monumental year.
It
the
is.
25th year is going to be a monumental year.
Yeah, it's I feel it coming.
Okay, so you just talked about Alison Krauss, your friend, your mentor. She is really, how old were you when you first met her?
I was 10 years old when I first met her, but it was just at this festival called Merle Fest, just long enough to go up and get a quick autograph and picture, and that was a very brief meeting. And then the next time I really got to spend time with her was when I had met Ron Block, who's been in her band for 25 years or something like that, at this function called the IBMA, the convention. They have the big Bluegrass Week they have every year, and I guess maybe he went and told Alison about me. I'm not really sure of the exchange, but all I know is she called my parents' house and invited me to come play the Grand Ole Opry, and that was really how I first got to really spend time with her. But she was my big hero, so that was an exciting moment.
And then didn't you guys go and play the White House?
We did, yeah. I think that
Were
was
you like 12?
I was 16 or so when we
16,
did that, yeah, which was unbelievable, getting to do something like that.
That had to be unbelievable.
It was. My mom got to come, which was
Oh,
nice.
how cool
and
is that?
Be there. Yeah.
We're here. We should identify the fact that we're sitting
We
in
are
the
in a
midst
cave.
of a cave.
We're in a cave.
Because you're playing Bluegrass Underground, the
Bluegrass
sixth
Underground.
season.
Yeah.
That had to be an exciting moment for you.
Oh yeah. Well, I've seen the show
Right.
on television, and of course I've played here right when they first started the series. So maybe in their first or second year, I was part of one of the shows here, but this was before we were filming and all
Right.
that. So things have, grown and changed a little bit over the last few years, but yeah, every time, driving in, coming down the, you're going in the little hole and coming all the way down, it's just like, it's amazing, and the big chandelier, and it's crazy. It's like, who thought of this? This is so cool.
What about the acoustics of that?
It's wild, huh? I mean, it's, just that you can even have something sound that good down here.
Well, you sounded beautiful. You
Well,
just
thank you.
fantastic. That song, Lullaby, tell me about that song.
Well, Lullaby, I wrote, it was my first summer. As you recall, my parents always used to travel and take me around and that stuff. So even as I got up into my teenage years, mom or dad was always there, traveling with me. And a lot of times my mom up into my teen years, because she could get off work easier and things like that. And it was my summer right before I went to Berklee. And I thought to myself, like, I had a lot of touring happening that summer, and so it was going to be hard for her to take off work anyway. So this was really, they knew I was going to be heading off to school in the fall, and so 17 years old, first time being out on the road by myself. Right. Without my parents, which I love my parents to death, but you know how it's that freedom or independent where it's sort of an exciting and scary time.
Right.
And I remember being out on the road, and I don't think the song was directly inspired just from that event, but I do remember it was somewhere around that time, something had happened, and I remember thinking, like, these are these moments when you miss mom being here.
Yeah.
You miss, like, having that person that knows you inside and out, and anybody that you can,
you can tell anything to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, that's kind of where that came from.
Do you do a lot of songwriting?
I do, yeah. The new album that we were playing mostly songs from tonight, I wrote all the songs on there, or co-wrote them, except for the Joan Baez number Queen of Hearts that we did.
That's a great song, too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So Go ahead.
Well, it's just an old traditional ballad, really, that I heard her do. Lots of people have done it, but it's kind of a cool version she had of it. So.
Yeah, it is a cool version, but you do it really well, and you put a really cool instrumental piece in there.
Well, I'd written that instrumental piece several years back and didn't really know what I was going to do with it. And then I heard her version of it, which is more like a ballad, you know, and the rhythm of my instrumental is a little bit different, a little more up-tempo feeling. And so I remember hearing that and thinking, the melody, you know, seemed like there was a connection between the melody of Queen of Hearts and the melody that I had written for this instrumental piece. So I thought, I wonder if we just kind of changed it up to fit the instrumental, we could almost make the whole thing like a little medley.
Has she heard it?
I don't know. I haven't heard from her. I've never met her, so I don't know.
Oh, well, I think you got to change that, girl. You got to change
Maybe
that.
I'd love to meet her.
Something that I want, you know, Sierra, you've won numerous awards, including the Bluegrass Star Award by Bluegrass Heritage Foundation, but you've won lots of awards.
A few.
Listen to you. So this Star Award is a lot about bringing traditional music and sort of enhancing it and showing it, bringing a new audience. When you first started out in Boston playing, you had to be bringing bluegrass to a new audience there, right?
Well, maybe I think a little bit because that program was sort of pretty new at that point. And so it was, I think, maybe around my second semester that they started a thing called the American Roots program, which has since really brought a lot of acoustic bluegrass folk musicians to the school there to do concerts or clinics or whatever it may be. People like Mark O'Connor, or they brought Bela there, or, you know, Andy Statman, a really cool mandolin player. Like a lot of different folks have visited kind of through the connections of that program. And so as I was there, it was really an exciting time because there were a lot of people that were starting to, you know, really be into bluegrass, old time, you know, you'd hear a lot of old time fiddle tunes being jammed all over the place. So I would say I was more a part of it, you know, a part of what was happening there at that time.
Right time, right place.
Right, yeah. Just a good time to be there.
Well, I know you like, because you're great when you hit a great bluegrass tune. You just kind of come alive, getting into that bluegrass rhythm.
Yeah, bluegrass is one of the things you could be singing the most depressing lyric ever, but the music is so joyful, you know? It's so joyful, Becky. It's hard to not have a smile on your face.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Some of the music I tend to write is a little bit more moody, so having some of the bluegrass songs in the set really, you know, allows me to have that part of my personality feel connected to.
Yeah. I read something that you said, as long as you stay humble and good-natured and gracious through it all, it is a better approach to life. That really is you.
Well, thanks.
No.
I try to remember that, you know. I mean, gosh, I get to do something I love, you know, more than anything. I've wanted to play music since I was 8 years old, so to like get to do it, I have absolutely no room to complain. There's a lot of people that have it a lot worse than me, so.
And were you like 10 when you did your first album? Isn't that what I read?
10 years old, Angel Mountain.
How about that? And how could a 10-year-old do an album? You just created a whole album?
Well, I was learning fiddle tunes like crazy, you know, the common standard tunes that all the musicians know. So I would go to all these different jams and pick with these people, and you know, you might play tunes like Cherokee Shuffle or Gold Rush or whatever, which I think were a couple that I recorded.
Played
on
at the
that,
Jamboree?
Yeah, played at the Jamboree or recorded on that album. So, you know, some of it was just stuff I'd spent the last couple years learning and playing, and just, you know, some common fiddle tunes I recorded.
And then tell me about your second album.
Then the second album was really, so the first album was
self-released, right?
Self-released. So in a way, I kind of think of the next one in some ways as my first album, because it was my first album on Rounder Records, which you know, I had always wanted to be part of that label. A lot of my heroes had recorded for Rounder, and so, you know, getting to release that first album was pretty exciting, and got to work with Ron Block, who was the guy that introduced me to Alison as the producer, and you know, I was in high school at that time, so just trying to balance that and come on the weekends and make this record.
At Pickett County High School?
Pickett County High, I sure was.
How about that?
The only high school in the county.
That's right. That's great. Nothing wrong with public education,
It's great, yeah. I graduated with like 44 people. I mean, everybody knows everybody, so it's awesome.
That's right.
It's awesome.
And then, so, Secrets What about Secrets? Was that the one
That's
that you
the
recorded?
one. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Secrets is the first Rounder album, followed by an album called Daybreak.
And Daybreak was a beautiful song. I've seen your music
Thank you.
video for that.
Thanks.
What's the story behind that one?
You know, I had written the first lyrics, if I can remember it. It's take me to a place where love is all I feel when I see your face. All I need to do is close my eyes, open my heart, and let you move. And I had actually written that in a journal or something at the time, just, you know, and I guess thinking of God and just, you know, thinking about writing that. And then the other, the inspiration for the word Daybreak is actually sort of a funny story. There's a fiddle tune called Daybreak in Dixie. And I had written on an old set list, this was years ago, and it was, my case was open and it said Daybreak. And just the word Daybreak got me thinking about what it's like, you know, when you've got something that you're troubled about and you wake up in the morning and it's, you know, just kind of, and just kind of took that idea and ran with it based on this thing I had written in my journal.
Well, it's a great song.
Thanks.
I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
that. So then your latest album is Weighted Mind.
Weighted Mind.
And you've got some incredible songs on
Thank
that.
you.
And what, you said Bela Fleck helped you produce this? He produced
it, yeah.
And he obviously was instrumental in encouraging you to just let your vocals and your mandolin shine.
Yeah, in some ways just let me be myself,
Right.
which was really interesting because, you know, I'd spent a lot of time playing in a band situation for so many years, which I love. You know, you grow up in bluegrass music, there's usually 5-6 people in a band, all kind of playing their roles and doing their thing, and there's kind of a structure to a lot of those songs, and, you know, the way the harmonies lie and all that stuff. And for him to just say, well, let's see what happens if it's just mandolin and voice. And I knew a lot of the songs that I was writing over the past few years weren't in that traditional bluegrass vein as much, so I knew it was going to be different anyway. But to have him say, well, what happens if you just take everything away and see what you come up with? And it was almost like light bulbs went off, because I'd never, it's as simple as it sounds, I had never really approached my music or anything I was working on very much in a solo setting. And the moment I did that, it totally changed my, it was both challenging and freeing all at the same time, because it meant, well, I don't have to worry about if I'm making room for this or making room for that, or, oh, this would be great or that would be great. Because a lot of times I think the place I was getting to is I loved the musicians I was working with so much that I would make room for everybody but myself. And then I'm trying to make a Sierra whole album, you know, but I was sort of getting lost in it a little bit. And so taking everything away sort of left me no choice but just to, like, what am I if nothing else is here? Okay, well, let's see what I can do, you know, and just, you know, play around with different ideas that I might not have had without doing that.
Well, it's pretty phenomenal.
Well, thanks.
You have to be really proud of it.
I am proud of this record. I feel like it's, you know, part of it is just coming into a particular place in life where I was able to maybe understand a little better what it means to just be honest, to write lyrics that, you know, even the song like Daybreak, there was a piece of, you know, something there with the first verse, but then, like, maybe it was inspired by, like, the fiddle tunes that listed, and letting my imagination go places, which is a total, you know, valid way to write songs too. People do that all the time. But with this album, it was just sort of like, oh, I got all this stuff, I got to get this out. And what does that mean if I just really say what I want to say, and maybe write things that felt a little vulnerable to even share with anybody? But you know, I think sometimes just being real goes a long way, and is, you know, sometimes the most powerful thing, even if it's simple, or even if it's just, you know, just some little something you feel in a moment.
Oh, you're hitting on it. I mean, really, it is being vulnerable, but there is such strength in being vulnerable.
There is.
And
it's
so,
hard to see that when you're, you know, for me, a lot of these songs, you know, I've been playing them, they're, you know, a little older now, you know, you make an album, you know, you write them and then you eventually get around to making the album, so some of them are not as close to home as maybe they are when you write them, but
Right.
but knowing the point of view that they come from changes the, it just, to me, it like makes playing music feel like really exciting, because it really feels like I'm able to just be myself and not feel like I'm just doing something based on what I think I need to be doing and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and I usually do pretty good. Of course, I was like, my mom's over there, and if I'm singing Lullaby, I can't look at her.
No.
I can't look over there right now. But otherwise, I do pretty good at just,
Right.
doing the songs and getting through them.
Right, right. It's just such a joy to see you. It's such a joy to see you at this stage in your life. You were always so gracious when you came and were at the studio. And it's so funny because I told you this before. Sierra, it's so fun being here at Bluegrass Underground with you, and we're so proud of that series and that WCTE, your
should be.
PBS station,
You
is
should be.
presenting it with Todd Gerald and Todd Mayo. They're just brilliant producers.
Definitely.
Last year we brought John Abbott. He's the CEO of WGBH Boston, which is the big PBS station in the whole country. And when we were leaving, he said, Becky, there's this young woman who plays in Boston all the time. She's a great mandolin player. You should get her. Her name's Sierra Hall. And I just cracked up and I said, John, she's from here. He was like, what?
He can tell by my accent, I guess.
That's right. He didn't know where Byrdstown was.
Well, him and many others.
There you go. Now, what advice would you give a young person in the Upper Cumberland or Middle Tennessee or all of Tennessee watching this show about how they could choose their passion, follow their passion?
Well, yeah, I think, like you said, your passion. It doesn't have to be music. I think whatever it is, just find what you love and work hard at it, because I think the harder you work, the opportunities come. And I'm a believer. I know, you, as they say, what is it, when opportunity meets preparation or
Right,
whatever,
right.
So that's true. I mean, my dad, I remember him telling me back when I was, 10 years old or whatever, and I was this big Alison fan. We talked about her calling me up. My dad used to say to me, one of these days, Alison Krauss is going to call and she's going to invite you to come play the Opry, because that was my dream. So maybe he was just telling me that to make me practice. But then he said, one of these times she's going to call and you're not going to be ready if you don't get on it. Just keep on working. So, it was always a good motivation. It's easy to get discouraged sometimes with anything that you're just super passionate about, because you have your good days and your bad days and all that. But just to keep the love there and try to stay motivated to just keep moving forward and not and it's baby steps about everything. Very, very rarely does something good just appear and happen. It's a slow climb of getting to the next place with where you want to be.
So has there been just a great challenge in anything in particular for you?
There's a lot of challenges, to going out. We've been, since the album came out, we've in the past 2 months done 30-something shows, and we've been like really busy. And there's the challenges. The playing music part, as they always say, is the fun part. Right. You get paid to travel, and I love traveling too. I do. I love seeing new places. I love people, but there's definitely challenges with some nights you go somewhere and this isn't right or this doesn't feel right, and I get cranky with the best of them.
Yeah, right.
But just the good, outweighs the bad for me, just because I do get to do what I love.
What's next for you?
Just, continuing to tour. I'm always trying to think about what the next project will be. It took me 5 years between Daybreak and Weighted Mind. So I'm really hoping that it won't be another 5 years. Who knows, I may hit 25 and come into some other crisis and take a while, but I hope not. I hope to be able to record again before too long and continue to write, which when you're traveling a lot, it's a little bit harder, but, carve some time out to write, and we'll just be continuing to be out there on the road doing our thing.
That's fantastic. Now, one last question is, I understand that Cordell Hull, the famous Tennessean, is related to you.
He is.
How important is your Tennessee heritage to you?
I mean, I'm so proud to be from Tennessee. I really am. I mean, I think, I travel all over the place, and every time, even driving out here to McMinnville and to do Bluegrass Underground, I was just driving and thinking it kind of reminds me of Byrdstown. You see the hills and here's a barn and a big open field and all that stuff, and it definitely warms my heart. you know, I love being from such a beautiful part of Tennessee, and will always take pride in that.
Well, we love you.
Well, thanks.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Join us for One-on-One when we have the opportunity to speak with Coach Marynell Metters. We're so thrilled she's back with us here in Cookeville, Tennessee. Hear all about the incredible and illustrious career she's had with women's basketball. Join us for One-on-One. Did you love the pros?
I did. I enjoyed the pros. Coaching All-Americans is very different. I mean, you have to really know what you're saying, because they know between fiction and fact, and I mean, you don't want to lose them, so you may have to make sure that you're 2 or 3 steps ahead of them, and you have good plays and things, and it fits their team and what they do.
Do you design the team? Did you design those plays?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you got a 3-point shooter, you got to let them shoot the ball, because
Right.
that's what they do.
Right.
And you design plays that will get them open for that.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.